Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. It is Thursday evening, 8 o'clock already, isn't it? Isn't it crazy? Actually, it feels like this week has really flown by, and of course that was pretty much the same for the whole of what us YouTubers on the tech side of things called Techtober, which kind of spilled over into November with all the Mavic 3 launch and everything else that's been happening. So yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks, frankly. But thank you very much for everybody for joining us. I really appreciate seeing the same regular. I'm about to call you the same old names. That's not very polite, is it? The same regular names in the chat, but also some new ones as well. Stuart Hart, good to see you. Sam FPV, hi. Andy Cortez, our moderator. Thank you for all your hard work as well. Although saying please keep all comments polite. The CAA are the good guys. What could people possibly say that's rude to the CAA? I have no idea. But there we go. Perhaps I'm asking for trouble there. But yes, but it's great to see you all. Thank you very much for coming along and joining us. Tonight we are joined by Jonathan Nicholson from the CAA, who's going to be talking about their exciting drone photography competition with some cool prizes. There's one prize in there in particular that I have to say is on my bucket list as well. Now, if you've got any questions either relating to the competition or anything really which you'd like to be put forward, please tag me at Geeksvana in the chat, because then it shows up orange in my chat and I can spot those, and we'll come on to those once we've gone through things. Now, I do also want to give a very quick shout out to our two show sponsors this evening. Moonrock Drone Insurance. If you go to hobby.moonrockinsurance.com and you use the Geeksvana 10 code, you get a 10% discount, which is fantastic. They now have a specialist hobby policy there, which is it's a fantastic policy because it's actually been produced specifically for hobby pilots, frankly. So, but yeah, we use Geeksvana 10, and you'll get a 10% discount there. Also, our other show sponsor this evening, Drone Masterclass. As you can see there, dronemasterclass.co.uk for your A2 CofC, GVC, CAA course, approved course needs. Now, we've got something quite exciting this evening, actually. The guys over at Drone Masterclass have actually given us permission to give away an A2 CofC course this evening, because we're going to be showing, as well as looking at some of the existing pictures which have been sent in to the CAA already for their competition, which is on the website. We're actually also going to be showing some of your pictures that you've sent in, and our guest is actually going to very kindly choose somebody to win an A2 CofC, which is very exciting. Now, if you already have an A2 CofC, I'll sort an Amazon voucher out for you, because I know that there's quite a few of us that have already taken the course so far. But without further, let's bring our guest in and say hello to him. Hi, Jonathan. How are you, sir?
Hi, Sean. Yeah, good. Thank you. And hello to everybody. Yeah,
indeed.
Okay.
Yes. So it's been an exciting few weeks since I last saw you over at DroneX. Thank you again for sitting down with us and having a chat with us about those, and also thank you for answering the follow-up questions. And which is actually, it's funny, it's one of the things I always say to people, and it's a bit like with sort of our wonderful moderator asking people to be polite and that type of thing, is that actually the CAA aren't sort of, how do I put this? They aren't hiding behind anything. You can pick up the phone, you can send emails, you're at all the public shows, etc.
Yeah,
and you guys have thick skins, frankly.
Oh, we have to. Yeah.
Because obviously, if anybody wants to see someone that really likes to get irate at regulators, it isn't necessarily the unmanned aviation, but manned aviation that can be a little bit prickly sometimes as well, frankly. So yes, but obviously we've had all sorts of things happening in the drone hobby and industry since then, including the good old DJI Mavic 3 being released. I'm actually looking forward to, it has to be said, to not having to talk about the DJI Mavic 3 very much soon going on. It hasn't happened yet because we're still talking about it quite a lot because it's still fresh and exciting, of course. But soon we are hoping that will be happening. So the main topic that you very kindly come along and to speak to us tonight is actually regarding a very exciting drone competition, which is the CAA 2021 drone photography competition. What can you tell us about it?
So we did one. 2017, I think we did 400 Foot Britain,
yes,
which was sort of one of the first things we did, actually. So that kind of set out our stall with all the drone education stuff about it being positive rather than finger pointy and thou shall and all that kind of stuff.
Indeed.
So I remember our chief exec at the time saying to me, this is either the best idea you've come up with or the worst idea you've come up with. And luckily for me, it was okay. It went all right. And that worked really well. And at that time, there weren't actually that many drone photo competitions around on a sort of national sort of scale. I mean, yes, there were a few, but at that time, it was quite cool, and we got a lot of interest, and it went well. And we kind of thought, right, we've done that. We can't sort of do it every year because it gets a bit. And then other bigger ones came along, and there were sort of European awards and world awards,
the Sienna Awards and things like that.
That's it. Yes. We thought, can't compete with that, and and we moved on to other things. Like I seem to remember we had a pulling ducks out of water at a drone fair one time, if anyone remembers that one.
Wow.
At one of the first drone shows, we did have a fair duck pond, so, and then we've done various other things. But then the thought was, okay, we wanted to do a piece of work around trying to remind people what the rules are about flying in urban areas for the larger drones.
Yes.
We still do see, unfortunately, a lot of people flying larger drones in cities, towns, etc., without the necessary permissions, and it's a classic one that the people doing it right, the approved people with the right approvals, constantly come to us and say, can you please stop people cashing in on stopping me getting work because they're doing it without the right approvals, if you like.
Yes,
so
indeed.
So we thought, we did a bit of a brainstorm, and this was one idea. So if we do specifically around not just the lovely countryside, which of course 90% of the entries are going to be the lovely countryside,
Indeed.
but as you have there. So we also did urban day and urban night, with the whole idea of being that we can get through to people, hopefully, that if you're going to submit urban day and urban night, then you need to think about whether actually you need extra permissions to go and do that. So that was the whole basis of it.
Which I think is exciting, actually. And when I saw category 2 there as urban night, I thought, that's quite cool, actually, because there is a lot of misunderstanding, and I think it always happens because, of course, a lot of YouTube and a lot of social media is dominated by the Americans. So, of course, there's a lot of crossover as far as what people think they can do because they've watched an American video or something.
Yeah.
And the whole night flight thing of sort of, we've got a video on our channel giving you tips on how to do it safely, because, of course, there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing from a qualification point of view stopping you from launching at night. You just have to follow the same rules, which arguably are a lot more difficult to stick to, especially with being able to make sure your airspace is clear and that type of thing. And there will be a link in the description after the show to our video on that. But I thought that was quite exciting as well, because it is, the nighttime flying is something which has really started to take off here in the UK, especially as people are able to fly in more urban areas with things like the Mini 2 and that type of thing. And in fact, we've actually yesterday released a video on Geeksvana talking about city flights, and explaining exactly that, looking at what you can fly where with what qualification and that type of thing. We based it on today's standards, because of course we don't have the sea label drones yet, etc. So it is something which we've looked at from that point of view, which is it's good. I quite like the concept as well, because I feel like it's looking to the wider public as well. This is something which, yes, is going to help educate people, which is absolutely fantastic for one, but I think it's also going to have an impact on the public, because they're going to see some very positive sides of drones. And of course, for the public to hear, actually, here's a competition with these three particular categories. A lot of the public still don't realize that you can actually fly drones legally in town and city centres with the right qualifications, right circumstances, and insurance and all that type of thing. So I think that's quite positive as well.
Yeah, and that's always one of the things we try to do with these, even if it's not the prime aim. One of the sub bits is kind of like just trying to get through to people. Every year we do quite a big piece of research about drone users and their knowledge of stuff, their attitudes, but also general public and what they think about drones, because that's really key to us if we're working on EV tolls in city centres. People relate. I know they're very different things to us, but people still think both of those things as a drone, if you like. So, reading across and making sure we have that public confidence that they think things are safe across the board and that people are doing the right thing helps with everything we do, and that's constantly a message we keep putting out. And coming back to your thing about night flying, it's interesting, because when I was talking to our regulatory teams the other day, they're going, when you get the winners and when you start exhibiting, can we put a little something with the photo that says what it was shot on? And obviously, we were thinking anyway we could do something about giving the ISO or the settings, or I was flying in X mode or something like that, to give people a bit of a hint and tip as well. Like, if you want to recreate this, like you see in photography magazines, they always say shot on an X with an X lens and a whatever. So, and they were like, and make sure it says it's a DJI Mini 2 if it's in a city or something like that. So they can show to people that it was done the right way, if you like.
Exactly, and I think it's always going to be an interesting journey whenever regulation changes, how much it has changed, because of course the previous rules, if you didn't have the PIFCO, the PFCO, then the town centres, congested areas were of course pretty much off limits. So to have that freedom with the sub 250, with things like the DJI Mini 2 and the Otto Nano Plus, which is coming around the corner, it has some phenomenal camera specs. So yeah, absolutely. And actually a few of the pictures we've got to share from our channel viewers this evening were actually shot on the Mini 2 as well. So it's become a very popular little drone, and I think it helps from the point of view that, and again, this is something actually that I don't think a lot of people realize, is that it's a benefit we're keeping beyond legacy, as long as we look after that benefit, of course, that actually the wider EU isn't. Once the legacy period ends, the existing sub 250 gram drones won't have the access to the A1 airspace in the same way that the Cap 722 allows us here in the UK, which is exciting, because all these expensive little drones that we're buying, we can continue to fly them beyond 2023 and C labels, etc. I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah, and all of this as well just gives us the opportunity just to remind people about the safety angle, if you like. So, even if you're flying a, sub 250, yes, the rules are less because the risk is a lot less because they're so small. But, we do still want people to think about all the other safety aspects of it, of the airspace, what else is involved in flying, airspace restrictions that might pop up, other things in the airspace. They're all just as applicable if you're flying a sub 250.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things we just want to keep talking to people about.
Yeah, no, indeed, exactly. And the current focus on the risk side of things, I think is good. I know, again, there are issues from the point of view of switching the commercial side of things, and that is going in a very different direction, because everybody always says what the FAA does, the CAA does next. And actually, then when these new EU regs came in, and it didn't matter why you were flying, it mattered what you were flying and how you were flying it, and qualification and that type, and risk essentially, which again I think was a it's a clean way of putting it, almost from the point of view that, that it's not, am I flying here commercially or not? Because that's a hard thing for a lot of hobbyists to get their head around.
And what's the risk difference between whether you're being paid or not?
Exactly.
There isn't any.
No, exactly. And I know, I was about to say, I know many hobbyists that are a lot safer than other commercial flyers I know, but actually I don't know those commercial flyers anymore, I would like to add. So anybody you see on my channel that is a commercial flyer, they're very safe. It's a bit like the goalkeepers union, isn't it, really? You have to
yes stick together.
Yeah, exactly. Here are some of the pictures which have come in so far to the CAA as competition entries, and it always takes my breath away. Because some of the pictures you can get that you don't necessarily think you can within drone rules and that type of thing. And whenever you're looking at something above fog and that type of thing, you think, oh, how have they got this with line of sight, etc. But it's fantastic how people are finding it, and how people are and I think that's the risk side of focus of these new rules that are helping people to do that. But that's a stunning shot.
I mean, we've taken the view with the competition that we've set out the terms and conditions. We've said you have to follow the drone code,
Yes.
and then we have to trust people.
Yes.
So, we
Exactly.
don't know whether somebody's got the highest level of permissions or no permission, because really all we've got is their email address and their name. So we operate on the basis of trust. So, yes, there is sort of, that's my favorite at the moment.
It's amazing, isn't it?
yeah. So we're not, they're not going auto live. So if somebody sends something in, there may be a day or so before. And I'm not making everything live because there's just so many of them, and they'll all be judged whether they go live on the site or not. But you can imagine there are some people who get slightly confused, who have sent things in that, if we had an auto publish,
yes,
look indeed. A bit strange.
No, that's right, exactly. No, I think that is a very safe policy to have, frankly. But yeah, I've left this picture on a little bit longer because I just love looking at it. Actually, it is such a great shot, and to me shows how you can get, you don't need to risk things. You don't need to have your drone in a risky situation. This, I can already tell exactly how they've composed this shot, where they're probably stood and everything else like that. And it's a safe shot, but it's also stunning to have the ruins in the background as well and everything. And I love things like having the steam. You can see the steam well off into the distance as well, which I think is
it's the classic, isn't it? So the steam is not obscuring the engine.
That's it.
But you've still got steam. The sky looks amazing.
Yes.
It's
very skillful.
Nice.
Very skillful. And again, wind farms, I have to say, is one of the subjects. I don't know why, but subject matters I really do like. It has to be said. It's again a stunning photo.
And of course, you could inspect the wind farms while you're there.
Yes, indeed. With the right insurance, you can do that as well. And of course, a night shot there before we go back to the others there. So it is phenomenal. Just very quickly before we continue, I just have to very quickly thank one of my esteemed colleagues in the the drone industry, one of the channels from the US, Ken Heron. Thank you very much for the $100 super chat. That's extremely generous of you, sir. Oops, this was supposed to be a $10 super chat. I think the bigger amount, the more text you're allowed. So I'll keep typing until I run out of letters. What to say? There once was a man from Nantucket who's, there you go, he ran out of letters. Well, thank you very much, Ken. I really do appreciate that, sir. You're extremely generous. So now as far as entering, we should talk about the prizes, of course, as well. There are some pretty cool prizes on offer.
Yep. So we've got a Mavic Air 2. I think it's a 2. As we were talking before the show, I mentioned the fact that it's been delivered to my office and it's in a cupboard, and I haven't actually seen it yet. So when I go back into the office next Friday, I'll have a look and I'll let you know
and clarify, because we have Mavic Air 2 on the website here, but there was one other.
I think it is an Air 2.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we got the Fly More pack as well. So
very nice.
Even better.
That's very exciting.
And yes, we've got some rucksacks from Think Tank and Torval as well. So
which are sort of photography drone specific.
Yeah, they're drone specific rucksacks. So actually, I think I'd rather have one of them. But,
really exciting.
I've got a thing about bags, but we won't go into that. But that's
you and me both, actually.
They'd be really nice. But I think from talking to people, the thing a lot of people have been more excited about is the fact that we've partnered with the Royal Aeronautical Society, and we're going to put the 3 winners, at least the 3 winners, on display in the Royal Aeronautical Society. Now, if anybody's ever been to the Royal Aeronautical Society, it is an amazing building. It's in Piccadilly, just around the corner from the Hard Rock Cafe, in that kind of area, overlooks Hyde Park, and it is stuffed full of old aviation stuff. Royal Aeronautical Society has been going almost as long as people have been flying.
Yes.
And it's sort of like First World War paintings, Second World War paintings, 60s, 50s, first jets, all of that kind of thing. It is full of antique.
And then your photo taken by drone. So
absolutely. And the Royal Aeronautical Society are really keen. They're doing a lot in the RPAS eVTOL sort of space at the moment, and they're really, really keen. And we were talking yesterday as a team, And what we're going to try and do, I haven't actually asked the Royal Aeronautical Society this, so this is dependent on them saying yes. What we would like to do is some kind of event. So the competition closes at the end of January. What we would like to do, probably in March or April, is some kind of event at the Royal Aeronautical Society where we will pay, providing they don't live in Hong Kong or somewhere, the winners to come down and actually see their stuff in situ. And we'll invite people like you and anyone else we can find to come along and actually have some kind of, like, an event, an evening or something like that.
That's a great idea.
We can actually show them off and do stuff as well. Yeah.
And apart from the prestige of being shown in that building at those headquarters, etc., which is phenomenal, and something you can always have in the scrapbook forevermore, frankly. It's also, I think it's great because there is a lot of areas now, as unmanned aviation grows significantly, there's a lot of crossover that we're going to start seeing with things like UTM and eVTOL and everything else like that. We're going to become one community fairly quickly, which I think again is indicated by the changes within the CAA, where the drone team is now the RPAS team within the CAA.
That's right. Within the general aviation team, it's all one team now, same people in it. And we recently set up for the commercial industry a vertical safety group. So it's not about helicopters or eVTOL, it's about vertical. So it's the same set of people, but from both communities in one safety group to work together and share backwards and forwards. So
which I think is excellent. I mean, we've had videos on the channel before where we have approached general aviation to get pilots' views on different things, etc., and they've always been so open and so forthcoming with their information and their views, and often not what you think they are. Manned aviation, of course, has a very strong tradition of keeping the airspace open and keeping access to airspace as low cost as possible, and that attitude is going to help unmanned aviation as it grows and everything else as well on many ways.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Philip Koshat, for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate it. Man, I really can't touch Ken's price. No, that was a bit crazy. This is the best I can do. Christmas is coming, exactly. And Philip, thank you, because you're also one of our channel members and a long supporter. And Ken Harris just said he's ignoring us, Philip. Who am I ignoring? I didn't see who I was. Oh, Philip Koshat. Okay. Yes, thank you, Ken. And as I said, do tag at Geeksvana, because once we've gone through a few of the photos that we're about to go through, we will do a little Q&A as well to ask Jonathan everything we can ask him about sea label drones, asked in as many different ways as possible, which is always good fun. So we have some pictures to show you now. I have a total of 20 pictures to show you.
Wow.
Yes, okay. Which have all been submitted by viewers of Geeksvana. They didn't actually know it was a week or so ago when I was planning to have to run a video to promote the competition. We didn't know you were coming on live at that point. But as we have an A2 CofC course to give away, we're going to ask you to pick one of the pictures. So that they can have their first prize, as it were, of winning an A2 CofC, which of course is quite apt in this situation because the A2 CofC will allow them to fly heavier drones in congested areas. So it kind of fits, doesn't it? Basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get into them. Here we have one from Andrew Crawford, which I think is a really interesting subject matter. Frankly, I think it's something to me which. I'm personally one that isn't obsessed with being at 400 feet the whole time, if that makes sense. And I like to get down and closer to the subject matter sometimes. And I think it's a really unique angle, isn't it?
Is it not missing a reflection of the drone in one of the things?
That would be good, wouldn't it? I wonder if you zoomed in at the bottom. I wonder if you could see it actually, but yes, it would have to be quite a big drone, I suppose, from this distance. So yes, that's Andrew Crawford's one. Now, from our senior moderator who's in the chat, actually, we have this one here from Andy Cortez, El Smeghead, as he's also known as. And he's played around with the picture a little bit as well, which is always good fun to do. And I think this was one of the photos taken from his time living in Guernsey, actually, which he's just come back to the mainland. But again,
Nice.
yeah.
I do like the I forget what it's called, isn't it? There's the effect where you try to make it look like a model or something like that.
He did put the word for the effect actually, but I'm sure he'll tell us in the chat in a second as well. But that's a nice picture. Up next, we have one from Asmir Ismail, which is actually from overseas. It's from, I think this is from Malaysia. But again, the top-down view I think is really interesting because this shows the sort of weathered effect on the decking and everything else like that, and obviously the sheer small size of this island as well, frankly. To have that many buildings on there, you have to wonder, the amount of time it would have taken to build things.
Yes. One of my esteemed colleagues has he tells me trademarked, but I don't believe him, explanation of a drone as a 400-foot tripod. So you could almost do that as, the straight down from the tripod, almost like a food photo or something that they do. Yeah.
There's possibly a coffee table book in that somewhere actually.
Yes.
So, and this is another one of Ismail's pictures, which is actually of his local mosque. Which again is a very unique view that really only a drone or a very tall ladder could
every
capture.
inspection. Yeah.
Indeed, exactly. And again, I like this one because you have the mountains in the background and everything as well, and the more modern city and the roads, etc., with obviously this fantastic looking mosque right in the middle. So yeah, nice shot there.
Yeah, nice.
A little bit of a railway station back there as well. Actually, you really did get a lot of things in there. This one is actually the first one from Ben Davies, and you can probably recognise already, can't you? It's so iconic that is Chernobyl there in the background.
Yeah.
Obviously, the general area of Pripyat. I'm probably saying that wrong, but never mind.
And they do drone tours, don't they? You can actually go and do drone tours around the area.
Yes, because in actual fact, it used to be frowned upon, and they used to try and stop drone flights. But within the last couple of years, they've now opened that up. And I do know a young lady called Natalie who actually runs some of those tours. And she said since they opened the drones up, it's become really busy, basically.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
it's definitely on my bucket list. I think a lot of people unfortunately did still fly without permission, but there's something about having permission and being able to do it, which will be a lot more relaxing, frankly. And of course, you have the shot there of the iconic wheel, although with a drone again you're getting a slightly different view of it. I do like the sunlight coming through the clouds on
sky. Yeah, nice sky.
It's quite dramatic, isn't it? And of course you have to, whenever you're in any sort of former Soviet Union, you have to have the obligatory statue on the main road coming into cities, etc., which I think is absolutely stunning. So and I think we have one more from Ben, which is just a different angle.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Again, showing that you don't have to necessarily have things like that large statue, 100% in the middle there. You can use the rule of thirds to build the picture up, basically, which I think is...
Yeah, big fan of the rule of thirds, definitely.
Indeed. A couple from a very new flyer, actually. This is from a young man called Brody Hugar, who is a chap I know over in North Carolina. And here he's again this is him trying out his DJI Mini, not even actually the Mini 2 yet. He's still learning his craft with the Mini, but again shows that you can still get a decent shot even from the more budget end drones.
Yeah.
And then here's a cityscape, which I think of his two photos, I think I prefer this one actually. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yes, nice crop on that one.
Yeah, and this one is actually from Dustin Gable. Hi, Dustin, if you're in the chat. Haven't seen if you're in this evening, one of our regular viewers. And this is, as you can see, of his local church. I have to say, I'm not sure I've seen many local areas that are quite as clean and as well cut as this. It almost looks like a sort of computer-generated town, doesn't it? Sort of
architect's impression.
Exactly. That an architect would submit to planning type thing, which is it's a great picture. So thank you for submitting that, sir. And this is from Fly High. That's the only name we have from it, which is the first one I think we've seen of these, which is actually using the good old golden hour. But to be able to get that, obviously they've enhanced it as well with some kind of software to get the orange glow coming back off the water as well, which I think is nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean that's the classic shot from a drone picture, isn't it? But a nice one, nicely done.
Exactly. This one's slightly different. This is from Liam Murray, and it's a long exposure shot from a Mini 2. Which I haven't seen many of those actually. He did list the, I don't have them in front of me, but he did list the settings that he had it on. But again, he said he found a nice, safe launch location, and he was able to stay well away from any of the roads and everything. But he was able to get an effect that even he was surprised
nice.
to get. Yeah, especially from the Mini 2 as well, I suppose. And this one is from Mark, who is otherwise known as Aztec Drones. Again, a nice bit of editing there, as you can see. But I think it does have the effect.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, nice shot, Mark.
It's blinding me, that one.
Yes, indeed. And another fog shot from Mark here as well, which again, that whole sort of mist rolling across the hills. This is probably about as British a drone photograph you could possibly take.
Very, very green.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
Lots of rain.
Exactly. And then this one from Mark as well, which is obviously showing the boats resting on the riverbed, nice. Which again is very, very indicative of our coastline, frankly. And I have to say, I do like those shots as well, because I enjoy the shots from our American viewers, etc. as well, and especially the ones that you look at it and you think, okay, a bit like that church shot, that is obviously America. I don't need to say, this is a shot of a church in America, because you can see everything about that shot is American. And I love that about some of Mark's pictures as well, actually, the fact that it is so easy to pick out the Britishness, as it were.
Yes.
This is from Michael, who is also known as Airless Mean, who's again one of our regulars and one of our channel members. And this was actually at a fair, which was recently on. Now, one of the things I liked about these shots, because he's a member of our Discord channel, so he was chatting to us a lot about how he got these shots with a Mini 2 again. And he was talking about the fact that he organized his takeoff positions, got permission from the people who own properties, that type of thing. But he also actually approached the police on the night to have a chat with them as well, and just to let them know what he's actually doing, which I think that's a good, healthy attitude to take towards it, basically.
The lighting's really nice on that.
It is, isn't it? It is, yeah, absolutely. I like the fact that you've got the throng of the crowd here at the front left, and then it sort of evolves out from there with all of the rides. I mean, they really crammed it in there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Quite impressive, frankly. And a couple more. This one is actually from Michael Coates, which I really like this shot. Again, it's a stunning countryside shot, but it was actually accidental. It's one that he found on his drone afterwards. He didn't actually even mean to hit the button, but it was one of his best shots he'd taken that day. And you think that's how it happens with photography sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It just, they happen that way. So, and this one is actually from username Shamhill75. And this is over in the States again. It's actually Brooklyn, which is a very different view.
Is it?
Yeah,
Wow.
It's not a view of Brooklyn I've seen before, actually, I have to say.
I would never have said that.
No, yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? And again, that's why I like these things to be shared widely, because it's something a little bit different. And then here we have one from Sean Johns, which again is that exactly what you were talking about before, about the sort of the almost food type. Looking straight down. Absolutely phenomenal. And then just a couple more. This is one of my favorites from Steve Martin. And again, this is
something from a sci-fi film.
Exactly. It's actually on the Isle of Wight, and it's one of those shots that again, the drone is so unique in being able to capture. And it's all about obviously the timing and then the editing of the photo afterwards as well, of course, which is phenomenal. And then just a couple more photos from one of our channel regulars who I know is in the chat tonight, Tony McGinn, who is Fly Sky Drones. And this was actually an event that he visited, and they knew he was flying. These balloons were actually not going to be taking off. They were doing a balloon light show.
Just a tethered thing.
Which is quite clever. And he's actually got a video on his channel showing the light show itself, actually, which was quite interesting. And then Tony's got another couple here, which again, always great to see a stunning English country house in there at the back, which is phenomenal. And then one final one, which is a nighttime shot, which again,
nice.
The Spinnaker Tower down in
Portsmouth.
Right.
Oh, Portsmouth. Sorry, yes,
Yes.
Portsmouth. Yeah. Nice guy.
Almost a very, 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 very smaller version of the Burj Khalifa, but there we go. It's one of it's one of our coastal claims to fame, as it were. So,
blimey, they're good.
They're good, aren't they? There were quite a few in there as well. Any particular favourite that you'd like to award an A2 CofC course to? Any you want to see again?
I liked the last one. I liked the nighttime fair one. Excellent. And I liked the one before the boats. I can't remember which one that was. The landscape one. That one was nice as well. The roads. I liked the roads.
Clever, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, the one before the boats. Yes. No, I know what you're talking about. Actually, yes. I think that might have been. Was that? That was one of Mark's.
That one, isn't it? Yes. That one.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that is a nice shot in many ways. Actually, I know Mark does put a lot of effort into his photos as well and how he sets them up.
So I would say that one or the fair or the very last one.
Oh, interesting. Can we put you on the spot?
Do you want me to?
Yes.
Have you got any preferences?
Oh, I can't, because all three of them are either channel members or Discord members.
Oh,
so if I chose one of them, it would actually be me sort of, showing a.
Okay, so seeing as we did this sort of from our side to do the city stuff and the towns and cities, we'll narrow it down to the fair or Portsmouth.
Okay.
And let's go the fair. I like the fair.
Excellent. Well, congratulations, Michael Ellismean. I'm not sure if I've seen him in the chat this evening. He's normally here, but I know he does work evenings as well, actually. But I don't think he actually has an A2 CofC as well.
Oh, so perfect.
I think that's absolutely perfect. And he does fly a lot. He and actually the chap who did the Spinnaker Tower and the balloons, etc. Tony McGinn. He's an absolutely phenomenal guy. Lives near Reading, and he's always out flying. He is literally the new hobbyist, as it were, under the new rules, personified.
Yeah.
He's always out flying. He's always making sure his takeoff positions are okay and that type of thing, and his distances, and phenomenal. He's actually just purchased the Mavic 3 as well, actually, which is phenomenal. So.
Nice.
So excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Sorry
to put you on the spot, and it's your fault. So
just blame me.
Yeah, that's right. So anyone that didn't win there, it's the CAA's fault, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So
we're used to that. That's fine.
Indeed. Just very quickly, thank you very much, Aviano Aerial Photography. I think that's Robert. I haven't sent any support for all your hard work, so here you go. Keep up the great work. A $10 super chat. Thank you, sir. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to go back through the chat very quickly and pick out a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
that people have been.
As long as they're not too techie.
Yes, no, indeed, yes.
Because I'm comms rather than regulator.
Yes. So, and if there is anything which is techie, the same way we did with Drone X, we can then follow up with an email and then come back to people in the next live show as well. Which is
absolutely,
I think that's actually quite a nice way to do it as well, frankly.
Yeah. And I always say to people, I'm not just drones. I have to cover absolutely everything we do. So I can get so far with knowledge, and then my brain sort of gets full.
Now this is one that I know that you do have something to say on as in general as such, which is actually, and it's the question we knew would come up, which is any news on certification and retro certification, of course, particularly in relation to the Mavic 3. And in fact the next one is actually the two people asking exactly the same question, almost, actually, next week on the chat. So what is the news on C labels at the moment?
So not a huge amount different, really. It comes back to for the retro stuff, it comes back to making, if that is going to happen, and I don't want to get people's hopes up because it's going to be, it's probably difficult to make it happen. But if it is going to happen, it's got to be something way more than somebody putting a sticker on. It's got to be something that the manufacturer makes happen, if you like, because to be frank, it's supposed to be something like it's burnt into the plastic on your molding by the manufacturer when they do it, so you can't sort of scrape it off with your fingernail or something like that. It's
That's
got
right,
to be.
because if you pick up a current drone and you look at the sort of CE labels and the UK CAA label and that type of thing, they are very difficult to remove for
Yes.
precisely that reason, that
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is an official standards mark to say that,
Yeah.
that this product is safe.
Yep.
And you the last thing we want, although of course we all want to see retroactive labeling, the last thing we also want is that system to be watered down, frankly, and to be, eBay specials to be out there of here's your C1 label for your Inspire One. That type of thing,
yeah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So that it really has to be something that can guarantee to people that what they're holding is what it says, if you like.
Yes.
And with all of the class marking stuff as well, we're in a kind of a bit of a interim position where actually the government is going to appoint a body to oversee and run the class marking system. We're kind of trying to fill the gap at the moment and help people and give what advice we can, but we won't be running the class marking system. It will be this other body, and we are saying to the government, please set it up as soon as possible, because obviously time is ticking, and people want things and want to know things. So there are some things we obviously know, but it will be this other body that actually runs it on a day-to-day basis.
Indeed, exactly, and it will also, for retroactive especially as well, it will take the manufacturers becoming involved in that as well, because of course the manufacturer is going to need to get the Mavic 3 approved as a C label drone, but also of course previous editions, etc. So that's going to cost them more man hours and money as well. I know DJI did put out a blog post now probably about 2 years ago to say our drones are going to conform, and we hope for retroactive, etc. But that was an enterprise level blog post, and of course when you're talking about a Mavic 2 Enterprise or something that's worth a few £1,000s, of course sending that back to DJI to then have £200 worth of stickers attached, but perhaps an Air 2S's and that type of thing. Although I'd say of course the Mavic 3 wasn't cheap on launch.
Yes.
But it's an interesting one.
And also the manufacturers taking on that responsibility as well. So they're the people that are declaring that particular product meets that particular specification. So they've obviously got a sort of responsibility back on them, that they need and want to make sure that is done properly, because they're going to be in serious trouble if it's not.
No, exactly. But I would certainly expect, because of course it is sub 900 grams and all that type of thing, the Mavic 3, I would certainly expect a Mavic 3 C1 version very soon after the standards are released, and once they are applicable to the models by manufacturers. I would have thought it's something that DJI are very keen on, because I was surprised actually to find out from DJI's chief pilot that the order of economies for them is actually China, Europe, then USA. So the European market's actually overall enterprise and consumer is worth more to them than the US. So
interesting.
So that they are very bothered about it. I've had that from the horse's mouth. It is something that they would like to see happen. It's like something that everybody would like to see happen. But we have had, of course, Brexit and a pandemic and everything else like that. So hopefully it's something that's, because of course we've only got next year of the legacy period left. So hopefully it's something we'll start to see some movement on.
And obviously manufacturers have quite long lead times as well to get something done and shipped over here as well. So
exactly. Let me just look down here. So Sam FPV. Oh yes, this is an interesting one. This is actually one that I did put down myself to ask if we didn't get any questions. I knew we would get questions, but just in case. Is there a possibility in the future, and is there any kind of, I have to word these correctly, to a communications point of view rather than technical point of view, to remove the spotter in regards to FPV? Because or having some other way of being able to do FPV without a spotter if you're an individual, be that in a closed field or something like that.
Yes. So I mean, all of that comes down to purely how do you look out for other airspace users. So all of our visual line of sight requirements.
Sorry,
That's all right.
wrong button.
Are all about making sure you can see the medevac helicopter come along,
Yes.
or whatever it may be, the parachutist or whatever,
Yeah.
and avoiding them. So ultimately, if people can come up with alternative ways to do that, obviously it's something we'll look at. So I know certainly with the set operational safety cases, one of those that they're looking at is extended VLOS,
Yes.
and how you would do that as a set safety case that you can just say, I've printed it off and here it is, and this is what I'm doing. So, I mean, we never rule anything out as far as future changes,
indeed.
but it's all about, for all the VLOS stuff is purely about how you see and avoid other things.
Conflict.
That's the only reason it's there in the first place.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Okay, that's refreshing actually, and that's quite a good way of looking at it. So don't necessarily look at it that the CAA want you to have a spotter, and that, you know, that's how it's going to be forever. More look at it from the point of view of, as a community, how do we find a safe way of ensuring that everything's ticked? Because of course, one of the issues with FPV, as I am now an FPV light, I stress light because I only fly the DJI FPV drone, so I'm not really a hardcore FPVer. But one of the issues there is, of course, that a lot of the places I fly that drone are things like parks and that type of thing. So you have other people using that park and dogs running around and everything else like that. And I personally always choose to have a spotter because I'm actually worried when I have those goggles on about people coming into my zone, etc. And the DJI FPV drone is a big old unit to hit something or someone. And I know a lot of other quads are a lot lighter, etc.
And when you're talking about that sort of such fast and speed, you know, it is that kind of like you flip it round, and until you flip it round, you can't see what's there, can you? Because you only see what you're facing, if you like. So the classic thing was always, if people were flying a more traditional drone at higher altitude and using the just literally either the view from the camera or FPV or whatever, is literally, I always used to say to them, how can you see the helicopter coming behind you? You can't.
Indeed. I've got a kit that's just come from Finland actually, which is from Anarchy Labs, and it's actually one of the products they're hoping for the extended visual line of sight from the in terms of inspections and that type of thing, because it uses the Google HoloLenses. I don't know if you've seen those. But you can actually see through them as well as the information coming up on the screen. And I think that might have some kind of sort of FPV spotter type. If we can have goggles that are more like a head-up display. So you can still see clearly the view from your drone, and you can still fly it as such. But then, of course, if you can see through it, so there's $1 million product that Geeksvana and the CAA have just handed over to one of the FPV companies. If you'd like to pay us our royalties.
But it's all about that kind of having that bigger perception, bigger picture, if you like, of what's going on, rather than just literally what your camera's seeing.
That's it. Exactly. And of course, again, it isn't because anybody thinks that a Mini 2 or a 5-inch FPV quad is going to take down a 747 or anything. It's the conflict side of things. And this is one of the things I try to put across to people, that in manned aviation, if there is a conflict, they have to stop. So if an emergency helicopter, an air ambulance is taking off from the field next door and they see your drone, that's it. They're stuck. So that patient now has to be unloaded, put into an ambulance and driven through the traffic.
Absolutely.
And, so it isn't about, is this drone going to hurt anybody or do anything or hurt the aircraft? It is the conflict, and conflict is the one word I always use. Go and speak to anybody in manned aviation, and it's a very serious thing for them, because of course we are on the ground, so and our drone is in the air. We've got a lot of money sat up there, but we haven't got as much sat up there as someone that's sat inside one of those aircraft.
Absolutely. And we were going to do something earlier this year. The COVID prevented us, but we were going to do something earlier this year with the Coast Guard about an education piece. Excellent. Because they quite often, unfortunately, have to, during the summer, abort rescues with helicopters or searches with helicopters because they see a drone in the area. and just literally their rules are, we therefore, with a tail rotor at low altitude, they're out of there, So
exactly.
we are going to redo it for next summer, for an educational piece. But it's unfortunately, they do. It's really, we don't want people to say, oh, that search couldn't take place because there was a drone flying, and then it comes back to what we were talking about.
And I
whole
honestly
perception.
don't think if we can get that across to the hobby, especially because I don't think any hobbyist wants that either. They don't want their Mavic Mini 2 or their FPV flight to impact anybody else, frankly. And but again, as you're saying, if you have that visual line of sight, you have that awareness, so you can down your drone, they can carry on basically, and very quickly you can get on with things.
Absolutely. I mean, if they see that drone go straight down and land, well, then they're going to carry on.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to put my mind, and I think I might start. I might start a little group with my viewers on how do we get around the spotter issue safely. I think that might be a challenge to set Geeksvana in 2022. Set FPV free. Not that they're not free at the moment, but anyway, it's a more clicky title. James McLaughlin was asking, when C labels come in, will flying sub 250 gram minis change as they don't have any rating? I'll allow you to answer that one. I have an answer myself as well.
So I think sub 250, it says at the moment that it just carries on with as a retro, and you can carry on the same. It's the above 250s that get more affected by the retro changes.
Indeed,
is that right?
Yes,
that's right.
Yes, that is exactly correct, sir. Yes.
Good.
And in actual fact, that is one of the things that we're keeping here in the UK that the EU don't share, actually. So it is something that we, as a hobby, I'm always very passionate. We need to look after that. So we need to, just because it's sub 250, we need to remember that you still have to follow the drone code. You still have to follow the rules. Why is it I'm talking about the rules more than the chat from the but anyway.
So I've got it right. I've got it right. But that's the kind of thing is I think people get quite rightly really into the drone code, but also for us, it's the things like the airspace. It's yes, the drone code talks about airspace and checking, but there's lots of people when we go to events and I say to them, do you check the airspace when you fly? And they go, well, I always fly there and I know the airspace there, which is at one level is great because you've checked the airspace, and airspace is pretty steady. It does change, but generally the structure is, for now, pretty steady. But what I do say to them is you do get pop-up restrictions and changes, air shows, royal visits, all of that kind of stuff. And that's why I really want people to, before you fly, check the airspace. Do your research about airspace structure that is pretty steady, but also every time you fly as well.
Indeed, live data is so important, and we always put that across to our viewers that there are two forms of live data. There's the live data for things like drone assist and UAV forecast and those kind of things that can be very, very useful. And then there's the live data which is in here, which is you checking your airspace and everything. Has something changed? Is something going on? Is there an event over there? That type of thing. Do I hear a lot of sirens in the area? Am I going to check out what's going on before I put something?
Absolutely.
Smoke billowing up. Oh, perhaps I won't fly yet because the fire service might want to put a drone up, that type of thing. So live data is so important.
And we're so lucky now with where we are with the tech that you can have that live data. So I remember when I started in aviation, the NOTAMs, which is what they use to notify of the airspace changes like that. I mean, we're literally in a book that you got sent paper updates every Friday for, and they weren't in geographical order either. They were in kind of just number order, so you would have to go through 70-80 pages of techo babble words to work out whether there was anything in your area. Now literally you open up your app.
Indeed, which is obviously we then went through the the evolution of notam.info being a revolution from the point of view that
Yes.
you can look up notams on a website.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, of course, we have
Yeah.
these apps like Drone Assist, etc., that have the live data, and it is important because you do get things like, there's royal flights, there's
Yep.
fireworks shows, there are so
Yep.
many things now, and with the new UAS geographical zones, there are so many valid reasons to shut an airspace off to drone users from a safety point of view. But of course, what I love about UAS geographical zones in particular is they have the little telephone number of the sponsor, i.e. the person that's asked for that.
Absolutely.
So you can
Yep.
still get access to that airspace.
Yep.
And I've personally flown quite a few times this year in flight restricted zones, which are UAS geographical zones, but I've picked up the phone to them and said, I'm doing this, and they're like, actually, that's nowhere near what we're doing.
Yes. So carry on.
Yeah. Thanks for telling us, crack on, type thing.
Yeah.
And so it's a good system which is evolving out of it, but and very live, as you're saying. So legwork, Bill, hi, thank you for your question, sir. Would the CAA ever consider a waiver for voluntary SAR pilots who have A2 GVC hobby but would benefit from SAR exemption of some sort to aid searches, which I think you're looking at beyond visual line of sight. And I think there is going to be something in the future there, especially for GVC quality of us that have our GVC, because when it does happen, the EV loss is going to be a bolt-on eventually, isn't it?
Yeah. And that it all still comes back to the conflict in the air kind of stuff is what we're trying to avoid. So I think a lot of people in the RPAS drone community, and there's no reason why they should, but they don't have the knowledge of exactly how a lot of manned aviation works.
Yes.
And they think that because they've got all the tech on their drone, that the other things flying have a similar amount of tech. Unfortunately, lots of them don't. So a lot of private flying general aviation. So I know I've got friends who've got private pilots with their own aircraft. They don't have an electrical system, let alone anything else. So they hand swing the propeller to start it. There's no electric starter. They have no radio.
Wow.
They have no way of electronically transmitting their position, location. So they literally fly solely by looking out of the cockpit with their eyes. They don't talk to air traffic control. They don't flight plan to say, I'm going on this route at this time. And that's great. Having that freedom is nice in one way, but also then when you come to want to do BV loss, EV loss, whatever, with a drone, that obviously makes it a lot harder. So, people say to us, that big drone was in controlled airspace with the airliners. And we go, yeah, that's easy.
Yes,
it just acts like another aircraft. The pilot's talking to air traffic control. It's transmitting all of its electronic data. It's probably got a collision avoidance system on that's very similar to the airliners. It's transmitting, TCAS, ACAS straight to air traffic control with all its details on. That's very straightforward. It is more what we call the uncontrolled airspace and the lower levels where people are flying light aircraft, balloons, hang gliders, microlights, parachutes, RAF Typhoons.
Yes.
Indeed. In that, and it's called uncontrolled. That's it. It is uncontrolled. So, in most cases, they're not talking to air traffic controller. They're not showing up on radar. They're not putting out an electrical system of any kind for a drone to pick up. So it's all of those things that we need to work on that then enables the drone community to get BV loss, EV loss much easier, and without actually having to necessarily ask permission.
No, indeed, exactly. Which again, that whole sort of automated side of things, which UTM will bring and everything else like that, is exciting. But as you say, there are so many check boxes, which again is why I think it's good that manned and unmanned are coming together so much more these days, because they're issues that we all want to resolve, because we all want to keep using the airspace as much as possible, basically.
Absolutely. And you will get, there are hundreds of little grass strips in this country that don't have restricted zones around them, that probably aren't even on a map, They could be somebody owns a bit of land, mown the grass, and keeps their aircraft there. And obviously, they're landing and taking off there, so they're going to be lower than 400 feet. And
Yeah.
it's
No,
just all
indeed.
those things we need to
Indeed.
factor in.
And especially military aircraft, because of course they will talk to no one.
Yes, and go a lot faster.
Yes, exactly. Troubles with Rosie. Hi, Alex. He's asking if we'll see EV loss for things like Mini 2s without having to take GVC pluses and that type of thing. And again, I think Jonathan's last answer pretty much answers that anyway, from the point of view that probably not, only from the point of view that you're going to have to be able to conform to certain safety standards, etc., to be possible, frankly, for it to even be possible. So yeah.
And it's also bringing the rest of the aviation world with all those light aircraft and all those other aspects as well into that known environment, if you like. So unless we get to the stage where the drone, the sense and avoid, is so good that it can in time detect a RAF Typhoon and a parachute is coming straight down and keep out the way of them all by itself, then you start to be able to say, okay, we can let something go further.
Exactly.
But probably we're going to end up with a mixture of a bit of everything. It's as the way we do it.
Indeed. Harvey M Photography. This isn't specifically a question for CA, but I will answer it very quickly because it's one on safety, which is always one I like to try and pick up on. Drones that have ADS-B, is there a required level you should drop to when manned aircraft is approaching? Normally, you'll find that a manned aircraft should be above 400 feet, unless it's something like, as we were just talking about, military or very light aircraft or emergency helicopters, that type of thing. Personally, what I do is, if I hear an aircraft and there is that noise to a motor, a helicopter motor or a Cessna motor, that you can really hear the gearbox, you can really hear the engine, and the prop, etc. So normally when I hear that kind of sound, I just land, frankly. I just bring it back as quickly and safely as possible. In my GVC training, if something conflicts in my area, the order is to hover, especially as you're flying something like an Inspire or something, which is a much larger aircraft. See what they're doing and then react, because actually you reacting may pull your drone into the danger spot. But certainly, yes, if you can bring it down to below tree level, if you can bring your drone down to an insignificant level for manned aircraft that might be passing lower than the 400 feet, then that's certainly something I would recommend. But it's a good question to ask, because it's one that took me a while to get answered when I was first a hobbyist. Actually, what do you do? I was at Newlands Corner flying back when you could fly at Newlands Corner from a takeoff point of view, and a paramotor came in very low, and I absolutely freaked out, because it was the first time I'd ever had any kind of, because it was only a small drone. I think it was a Parrot Bebop 2, so it was a few years ago. And I freaked out. I was like, oh, what? So I then went on a long mission of research so I knew what to do next time, basically. So,
and you won't see a paramotor very high anyway.
No, yeah, exactly. And I spoke to one chap who is in love with paramotors, and one of his more sort of jovial answers was, "Well, shout to the guy, because he can probably hear you."
Yeah, probably can. Yeah.
Say, hey, my drone's there. And James McLaughlin again, you mentioned emergency aircraft stopping operations. Is there a way of telling said pilots that you've landed and it's safe to continue? Not at the moment. Interestingly, there was a news story which we covered, I think it was actually either earlier this year or last year, where a fire drone couldn't take off because there was a hobbyist flyer perfectly legally flying, but just that little bit of conflict there. Perhaps one day when we do have the apps that run everything UTM wise and that type of thing, and a little bit perhaps similar to the States, where each of the all of the drones are talking to each other with, I don't want to use the other hot topic of remote ID, but when drones are talking to each other and that type of thing, then yes, that will come with technology. But we're on a journey, really, aren't we, Jonathan, from the point of view where we are now to get to that point.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that will come. I mean, people are demoing that kind of stuff already with UTM and all of that kind of thing. And it's just, you can. It's more like they're not going to abort if they can't see anything. It's if they see something that they're going to abort. So if you reasonably quickly react, and you can hear a helicopter quite a way away, unless you're in a real urban area. Even then, you can pick them out quite a long way away. So and what they can see is, we've done stuff when you fly in a small aircraft, and what you can actually see from a drone. You can't see very much at all of a drone. It's got to be pretty close to you to be able to see it. So if you're out of the way, based on, you can hear something and you think it's coming your way and you're out of the way, then I'm sure you'd pretty much be, no conflict to them, and they wouldn't see you to even realize that.
No, indeed, exactly. And one other question that we had in there was regarding extending legacy should sea label drones and etc. happen, which we did cover in our interview at DroneX actually. And I assume the policy hasn't changed from the point of view that you don't want to stop people flying, especially for work and that type of thing if it's a business. So if a problem comes up, it's always under review, isn't it, basically, essentially?
Yeah, we keep everything under review. And as I say, when the standards agency comes along for the class markings, they'll be the people to take that on. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, that's it for the questions. I want to say a very big thank you to you for joining us. My senior moderator has been putting the link to the drone contest in the chat lots this evening, which
good.
I thank
well done.
you for doing.
I was just about to say the one thing we haven't done is told people to
yes,
enter.
Indeed. It's actually it's also linked in the description as well. But it is so easy when you go onto the website itself. I'm actually trying to move it on my broadcast screen, not on my browser. That was clever, Sean. This is the page which comes up. You pop down and then you've got the 3 categories. And urban night, I still want to click on that because it excites me. And it's very, very simple. Pop your name in there, your email, your title, location, which is optional, obviously the category, and then you can upload the image very simply. And then there's the I'm not a robot, and then accepting the contest rules, etc. And then that's it. And I mean, you will also find, of course, that whenever Jonathan goes on shows like this or the BBC or anything else like that, they always take these pictures along with them as well. So you might find your pictures turning up in surprising places.
Yes, and thank you for yours, Sean. They were on the BBC.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, it was good to see my own picture on the BBC, and it made it into the Daily Mail as well, actually, which was interesting. So yeah, but again, which is good because it's a positive news story about drones coming out there. So as I say, yes, the closing date. Thank you, Alex. Travels with Rosie's asking that. That's the end of January, isn't it?
End of January. Yeah. And then we'll judge pretty quickly after that, let people know. Yeah. And no restriction on numbers of entries. You can enter as many times as you like.
Excellent.
As I have seen people doing.
Excellent. Yes, we had the same actually. We had some of our wonderful viewers sort of submit about 10 photos for tonight actually. So I had to sort of pick which ones I thought were the best as well from those. So yes, so excellent. Well, as I say, thank you very much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. One of the things I do want to dispel is the myth that we can't speak to the CAA as hobbyists, as you know, and the CAA are there. You can email them. Go onto the CAA website. You'll find the contact details. If you want to meet someone like Jonathan in person, go along to shows like DroneX and the photography show and that type of thing. I know several other hobbyists that I've spoken to that have had very long conversations with you, Jonathan. You're a very patient man.
we do, yeah. Well, you makes the day go quicker when you're at these exhibitions, so that's fine.
Indeed, and it's always fun to talk about drones, isn't it? But yes, indeed. But yeah, so as I say, thank you very much. Come back soon. You're always welcome on Geeksvana, and we'll see you soon, sir.
Cheers. Thank you.